Welcome to a CEO Insights edition of the Total Picture Podcast, coming to you in both YouTube video and iTunes audio formats. The one thing COVID-19 has done for streaming video is encourage everyone to improve their at-home capabilities to stream and participate in video conferences, events, and meetings. And that's the focus of our show today. I'm happy to have back on Total Picture the CEO of TA Tech, Peter Weddle. TA Tech has aggressively pursued a virtual conference schedule since this COVID-19 thing emerged. And I would guess if you are watching or listening to this, your email box has been flooded over the past few months with invitations to sign up for virtual events. My experience has been really mixed. What about yours? Please share your comments and experiences with us here. So, Peter, welcome back to Total Picture. It's good to see you. How have you been?
Well, it's great to be back, Peter. It's been an interesting journey, I'll say that. Over past couple of months, we've had to basically reinvent ourselves. It's been a challenge.
Yeah, so back in February and March of this year, your business model and mine changed overnight. So tell us a little bit about your pivot from producing, live in-person conferences and events on a global scale to transitioning to the virtual world.
Well, as I said, it's been a journey, but it's not just been a journey for us. It's actually been a journey for three groups, I think. The first, of course, were the people who come to our events, and that is both on the customer side, the leaders and professionals who work for enterprise employers, SMBs, RPOs, staffing firms, and on the industry side, the talent technology companies. So we had to really understand what they felt was most important to them in a digital event and determine how we could do that in a way that would be good for them as well as good for us. So it was those audiences, but also we had to, think about ourselves in terms of what can we do legitimately that would provide value to our conference attendees, what would be useful to them, and not just another webinar online.
Yeah, that you bring up an interesting point because as I said in my experience participating in virtual events has been really mixed. There are a lot of technical issues everyone has had to deal with, and some of the so-called virtual events seem to be little more than a glorified webinar. So how is TA Tech approaching these issues around the technical issues and the presentation issues in doing a virtual event?
Well, we really had to plumb our well of innovation, if you will. We had to try to think how we could take a relatively limited technology, a platform like Zoom, and try to infuse it with some of the principles that we feel strongly about. I mean, we really believe that education is not just being talked at, but it is an experience of talking with one another. It's about peer-to-peer conversations. There's a lot of wisdom out there among both the talent acquisition and HR professionals and the industry side. And we think you get the most insight, you get the most education when those two communities are talking together. So we had to think about what we could do. And it's been an ongoing evolution, if you will. We don't do just regular webinars. We do what we call social webinars. And we've had to sort of learn some of the rules of the road as we've gone along. But we leave the chat function open at all of our events, and we encourage peer-to-peer dialogue during those events so that the attendees can talk among themselves about what they're hearing, what they think makes sense, what they think they'd like to disagree with, and then, of course, to use the Q&A function to actually pose questions. So it's a much more interactive experience than just your traditional webinar where you sit there and get talked at for an hour. But still, it's a learning experience for all of us. It's easy to say, hey, we've left the chat function open, but you can throw a party and nobody comes. So we've had to kind of encourage people to get out there and talk to each other.
Yeah, sort of on that same vein, Peter, there's a lot of conversation regarding Zoom fatigue, and I've certainly experienced it. So, how have you adopted what were traditionally full day events into virtual events?
Well, in most cases, we limit our events to one day. If we go to multiple days, then we never do more than four or at most five sessions. But most importantly, we've been very specific across all of the time zones that we typically provide content to. So, the EMEA region, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, as well as North America, we're very specific about the times that each of the topics that we're going to cover are going to be covered so that people can tailor their experience to what they want to attend. They don't have to log on and sit there and wait for the third, if you will, the third discussion, the third presentation. They know in advance exactly when each of the topics are going to be covered, and they can attend the first one and the third one, or the second one and the fourth one, whatever makes sense for them. So we've limited the duration of the events, and we've also been very specific about how you can tailor the events to your particular interests.
Well, let's talk about one specific event that you have coming up very soon, which is the Direct Employers Digital Conference on November 12th and 13th. How has this been organized?
Well, it's really the culmination of everything we've been talking about. There are no presentations at this upcoming event. The description of the conference is strategic conversations about talent acquisition, how must the funnel change? And what we've done is we've identified 8 topics that we think are really important to talent acquisition in 2021 and beyond. Everything from DE&I to the impact of automation on the candidate experience, just a whole range of fascinating subjects. And then we've reached out to our partner, Direct Employers, and we have brought together 2 thought leaders, one from our community, the industry, the talent technology side, and one from the employer side. And we've asked them to get together and talk about each of these 8 topics. So there's 2 sets of thought leaders, if you will, or one set of thought leaders, an employer and an industry person for each of the 8 topics. And they're going to begin the conversation with a 20 to 30-minute discussion. But after that, we really want the audience to engage. This is a conference where just sitting back and listening is really not the goal. We want everybody to have a unique attendee experience, to have a chance to get up on the virtual stage and mix it up with these 2 thought leaders on these 8 important topics that each of these thought leaders will be covering. So the way it will work is after the 20 to 30-minute initial discussion, the people in the audience have 3 ways of participating. One, they will in advance be offered the opportunity to pre-reserve a slot at any one of the 8 topics. So they can say, hey, I want to ask a question or I want to make a comment on this particular topic and pre-reserve a slot. Secondly, we have obviously a Q&A function where people can on the spot interact with the thought leaders. And in both of those cases, what we're asking the people who have the questions or want to make a comment to do is to turn on their mic, turn on their camera, and just like you and I are doing, have a conversation. Get up on the virtual stage and interact with the people who are there presenting. And then finally, we're going to also ask the experts themselves to provide some questions that we can bring up if the audience needs a little encouragement to get up on the stage. We'll start off the conversation with some folks just to make sure that everything is comfortable for the people in the audience. So again, the idea is to give the attendees the unique opportunity, which you don't even get in an in-person event. I mean, at an in-person event, you're lucky if 2 or 3 people get to ask questions during the Q&A session. Well, here, we're going to have 30 to 40 minutes dedicated to questions and comments from the audience.
I think that's really cool and a really interesting way of organizing this because, as you mentioned, there are a lot of issues now that need to be dealt with in 2021, and just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean that these issues don't need to be discussed and debated amongst the industry peers.
Well, that's right. And as I mentioned earlier, we believe that some of the best education, some of the best insights come not from sitting back and being talked at. There's nothing wrong with webinars, to be sure. We do webinars,
Right.
but we think another important component of learning is discussion, is conversation, is having a chance to field opposing views, to get pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit, to have a chance to look at things from a different perspective. And we think that's probably one of the best ways to get some new ideas to take back to your organization.
So it's sort of on that same vein, one of the bullet points on your events page at tatech.org/events that I absolutely agree with is this. What's special about TA Tech conferences? The people who attend. And I think that is so critical to this whole thing is because you have the right audience.
Yeah, we've been very blessed. We as I said earlier, we bring together really insightful, innovative people from both sides of the talent acquisition great divide, from the employer side and the industry side. And we put them into an intimate setting where they can have a meaningful dialogue. So we don't aspire to throw conferences with 8,000 of your closest friends. Really, what we want to do is hold small events that are really designed to promote engagement, designed to promote interaction. And the magic in that formula are the people who attend, the people who come to those events. They are the people who really, they have something to share.
Yeah, even with the success of your virtual events, I know you're looking forward to hosting live conferences again. I'm
Oh,
looking
please.
forward to attending live conferences again. So, Peter, take out your crystal ball. When do you think we'll be able to meet in person?
Well, we have already made a commitment to 2021. We are pleased that we have a partnership with SHRM. We're going to be co-locating with SHRM, the SHRM Talent Management Conference and Expo, which is going to be held in April in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is open. SHRM is going to do that show. It'll probably be a hybrid, but there will be an in-person event as well as probably some of the program being streamed live. And we're really looking forward to that partnership, that chance to kind of get back there and with proper protocols, social distancing and wearing masks and so forth, at least have a chance to see another human being other than your spouse and your kids,
Right.
up close and personal. And then we're very hopeful that we'll see a new vaccine come online for COVID, and that we at this point are planning to do in-person events again in probably late Q3, early Q4 of next year.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope this all works out, and I hope we do have a vaccine and that we can start doing this stuff again. I don't miss the airports, I don't miss the airplanes, but I certainly miss the opportunity to engage and connect with people at events like TA Tech.
I do too.
Yeah.
If I never have to go through another security checkpoint, it'll be too soon. But I tell you, it's we are a social species, and despite the name social media, there is no substitute for in-person, person-to-person contact. I think we've all learned that as a result of this horrible experience that we're going through. So I'm looking for the light at the end of the tunnel.
Me too. So I really appreciate you taking time to speak with me today, Peter. What haven't we covered that you'd like to share with us?
Uh, I think the only other thing that I would add is that we throw this term around, thought leaders, a lot. I'm guilty of it as much as anybody. But at the end of the day, there's an extraordinary amount of wisdom out there among all of the practitioners and all of the people who are engaged on a day-to-day basis in trying to help organizations acquire talent and to help organizations acquire the technology that will enable them to do that acquisition easier and more effectively. So I think, I would say to everyone out there, you have a lot to share. And I would urge you to remember what your mother and father taught you when you were a kid, and that is it's nice to share. Come to our events, share some of that wisdom, learn from some of your colleagues who are doing the same. I think the experience will be more engaging, more educational, more empowering, and at the end of the day, you'll take more back to your organization.
Great. Well, again, thanks so much for taking time to speak with me. One last thing. What's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Well, we have a very robust website, so it's tatech.org. That's tatech.org. Or certainly, if you want to contact me directly, my email address is Peter Weddle, all one word. That's PETERWE, D as in David, D as in David, LE at tatech.org.
Awesome. Well, Peter, thanks so much. And best of luck to you and to all of us in getting through the next few months and getting back to live events again.
Thank you, Peter. It's been great to be here.
Thank you.